All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, I should say. Mr. Anthony Brown. I'm the Prairie View Ag and Natural Resources Extension Agent here in Smith County, and I also serve in Henderson County as well. This morning, we have a fill-in speaker today, Mr. Stephen Gowin. He is the Ag Agent in Van Zant County. Rains County. I'm sorry. Rains County. I'm sorry. They're neighboring counties. They're right down the street from each other. I'm sorry. But he is filling in for Mr. Jodan Pugh. Mr. Jodan Pugh is the auctioneer who owns a sale barn down in Sulphur Springs, Texas. That is in Hopkins County, if I'm not mistaken. And I wanted him to give us a brief beef cattle update and have some insights on different topics about beef cattle marketing your cattle and how you can make more money with the ongoing price of going up of fertilizer. Going through the sale barn, running one by one is not probably going to be the best option this year, but Mr. Gowin is going to give us some insight on different types of sales, of preconditioned sales as well. And he's going to give us a brief update of the market as well. So Mr. Gowin, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna waste any more of your time. Go ahead and give us a brief update. He doesn't have a PowerPoint. He's just gonna be talking to us today. So you got the floor.
All right, appreciate it, Anthony. Thank y'all for joining in today, and I appreciate Anthony giving me this opportunity to talk to y'all. Basically, at any time, if y'all have some questions, just let me know, and we can go through a question and answer. Anything y'all need to know, anything you're wondering, just feel free to interrupt me and talk about that. Basically, as far as a market update, I'm going to give y'all some information on some sales that have just happened. Some net bio sales. Last Friday, net bio had a sale, and I got some numbers off of it. And I also personally sent some cows to Emory. And so I want to kind of, talk to y'all about the differences in a preconditioned sale, such as net bio, and then selling them one by one, as Anthony talked about at Emory. And it's pretty eye-opening when you start looking at that and looking at the numbers. And I'm going to talk to you. I personally run cattle. My brother and I have about 65 head of cattle. And so, a lot of this information is coming through, cattle sales that we've done, and me watching, the markets and things like that. There is a prediction that cattle prices in 2023 will go up. In 2023, they're looking at 5 and 6 weight cattle running about $1.74 to $1.80. And so that's a pretty significant difference as it is right now. One of the reasons for that is the fact that, as most of you know, we're predicting the powers that be. I don't know exactly who, the National Weather Service and things like that are predicting a hot, dry summer, especially in the South and the Midwest. And with that being said, they're expecting a lot of sell-off as far as beef cattle goes, and as far as a lot of mama cows. Cow prices right now are really good. I just sold an old cull cow. She was probably 12 years old. She weighed 1,250 pounds and was 75 cents a pound. She brought me, a little over $900 something, and raised several good calves off of it. So the cow prices right now are very strong, but they're predicting a sell-off if we continue to stay hot and dry. And if that happens, I believe your cow prices are going to fall. When cow prices fall and your numbers of cattle that are out in the country start reducing, then your calf prices in the future will go up. So that's kind of what they're predicting. They're predicting the number of cattle out in the country to be a 6% lower in 2023 than it is now, and so in turn, that hopefully that'll raise those calf prices in the future. As y'all know, and we can talk about kind of anything y'all want to. As y'all know, that fertilizer prices are at an all-time high. I just fertilized, a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to get some fertilizer for $800 a ton. Last year I paid $350 for the same fertilizer, and so that's a huge difference. And so, of course, my $60 hay last year is probably going to be running close to 80 to 90. And when you're feeding, 4 bales per cow per year, that turns into a lot of money. And so we're, expecting, they're expecting fertilizer prices to continue to stay high. Now, one of the things I will tell you when we talk about fertilizer and pasture management, you're not really beef cattle producers. You're forage producers that are letting your cows eat the forage. And so we got to keep that in mind. So the more forage we have, the better, healthier our cows are, the fatter they are. If we overstock, especially in a dry year like this, dry, hot year, you're going to end up feeding hay in July and August. And then that price of that next year's calf just skyrocketed. So one of the things I would, that I'm personally doing, and I'm personally telling my producers that, okay, take your best hay meadows or your best pastures. Don't cut out fertilizer, altogether. You might reduce the amount of fertilizer that you put on in the past, but be sure and have, put on some fertilizer because we don't want those hay meadows in the future to be, just terribly deficient. And then spray. Weed control is very critical, I think, coming this year. I noticed goat weeds are 6-7 inches tall in some of my pastures, so it's time to spray, and that's about 2 to 3 weeks earlier than what I normally spray. So now's a critical time to be looking at that, looking at those, your pasture conditions, your stocking rates, things that you can do to offset these input prices. Because and I'm going to give you some numbers, and of course I don't expect y'all to I don't expect y'all to remember all these numbers that I'm throwing out, because I'm going to be throwing out a few, but if you do have some questions on them as we're going, just let me know. The future for feeder cattle for November is $1.7475, and that's for a feeder cattle is from 6 to 8 weight calves. And so the future has gone up over the last couple of weeks, about 75 to 80 cents. And so that's a pretty good indicator that our calf prices are going to be a little higher come this fall. Live cattle as of today, which are 1,200 pound calves, 12 to 1,400 pound calves, they're at $1.3165. And so that calf at 1,300 pounds would bring the feedlots about $1,700. Um, as y'all know, um, we've got the producer is the first step. Um, we end up selling 5, 6 weight calves, um, and then they go to the feed yard. The feed yard will raise them to 1,200 to 1,400. Then it goes to the packing, and then the packing house, cuts it up into box beef and things like that, and then sells it. And so, um, there's only 4 major packers in the United States. So a lot of times, you know, what you see in the grocery store compared to what you see out in the, real life and in the pasture are totally different things because they go through lots of hands before they end up getting to that grocery store. And so, as a producer, we have to minimize our inputs to make as much money as we can. And so it makes it, very difficult to do that. I did put some numbers in from some recent cattle I just sold, and I'll give you an example of kind of what um, producers are making out in the country. Um, and we're going to talk about the net bio sales, which I don't know if anybody are any of y'all familiar with preconditioned sales or net bio sales? All right. Well, net bio is basically it's Northeast Texas Beef Improvement Organization. I actually sat on the board of that, but the net bio, what they do is they group cattle together, sell them in large lots and in truckloads, and the lot may be anywhere, depending on what type of calf, maybe anywhere from 5 to 6 up to 125 calves. And so they're graded on number ones, 1.5s. Depends on which lot you fall into. It's the type of grade of calves they are. Um, black calves will be in a different lot than yellow calves. A spotted calf will be in different lots than the other two. And so and so when you look at that, um, and I'm going to kind of regress a little bit. So we're looking at selling calves, um, light colored calves, and solid colored calves will do better for you than anything that has a little white or, that might be a little painted, because a lot of times they think, okay, those are longhorn cross calves, or got a little Holstein in them, and they're not going to yield good, and whatever. They may not. They a Beefmaster calf a lot of times are a red and white or black and white and are painted, but they will be discounted at the sale barns. And so if you can, get those your herd bulls and your cows kind of a solid color, that's going to help. We, I'll have yellow calves. I'll have, because I run basically a crossbred herd. That herd consists of kind of, I've got some, black Angus based cows and some red Angus based cows, and I've got a herd that's kind of a Charolais cross type cows. So, most of all my calves come out solid, and and I'll put black bulls on them or Charolais bulls, or even right now I've got a Hereford bull that I've got with them, trying to get some replacement heifers. And so those type cattle will do a little bit better at at the cells, especially when they're in a commingled group. So we go back to what net bio is. No, net bio is, let's say for myself, I'll take 6 head. Those 6 head they may all go into the same lot. More than likely, they will not. They will go into lots with other like type calves, and so your calf is basically grouped with some more, and so that buyer can actually get a truckload at a time, and so you're going to get a premium just for that. The other thing is you're going to get a premium because net bio you have to vaccinate. And basically, it's a VAC 45 program. You've got to give IBR, BVD shots, clostridial shots, which is blackleg. You've got to do all that. And then they've got to be castrated and preferably dehorned. If not, the horns need to be tipped. Typically, just castrating a calf will bring you 5 to 10 cents a pound more. And so that's kind of huge. That's going to be kind of a difference maker. That's why a lot of these preconditioned cells are a little bit higher because they have been wormed, they have been worked, they've been castrated and dehorned and all that. And so that buyer in turn knows that calf has been through some protocol that cause it, or the protocol that they should be healthier than say what's coming through the local cell barn, because that local cell barn, as most of you know, and I'm guilty of this too because I just did it. I'm going to give you some numbers here in a minute. But I took a group of calves to Emory last Tuesday, and they were a group that basically were late summer last year and early fall. They kind of were off. I had 6 head that were kind of the cows were off on breeding schedule. So I ended up selling them. They had not been castrated or dehorned, which I've run polled, so I didn't really have any horns. But I sold those calves, and I sold them like I said, they were not castrated. So automatically, I got a 5 to 10 cent discount because of that. Those calves averaged at Emory last Tuesday. They averaged 531 pounds, and they basically brought me $1.41, which grossed $750. And then, of course, you got commission out of that. So I actually netted $713 off of those calves. I had a really good friend of mine the Friday before sent 9 head to the net bio cell, which is a commingled cell. Emory sells them one by one. His average weight was 540 pounds. His average price was $1.64 for an $887 price per head. The difference in what he made, and like I said, he has yellow calves. His calves were a lot like mine. The difference he made compared to me was $136 per head. And that's a lot of money. And so, like I said, I only sent 6 head, which is $800 something dollars, but that's a lot of money. And part of the reason mine were discounted is the fact they weren't castrated, weren't dehorned, and there was no evidence of them ever being vaccinated or worked. And so there's where your difference in your commingled cells and your some of your replacement type cells come into play. And so when you have the opportunity to do a background sale, um, and sell your calves that have been backgrounded, um, it makes it a whole lot, more advantageous to you. Um, the one thing I have found with NetBio, or these commingled type sales, um, if you have a good calf is always going to sell well. It'll sell well at Emory if he's castrated and all that. A good calf is still going to be a good calf, and he's going to sell. A lot of times, you'll put in, a lot of times if I have a calf that maybe hadn't grown off as well, or a little bit inferior than some of my others, put them in a commingled cell and they get grouped together, they'll still bring that premium. And so I think that helps a lot. And I'm not saying sell any type of inferior calves. That's not what I'm saying. Um, because a bad calf is a bad calf, and it's going to be reflected on the price anywhere. But what I am saying is they're grouped together with light calves, and they're still going to get a little bit more premium than maybe selling them individually. And so price will still be reflected of that, but you're looking to get those premiums as much as you can. When we talk about prices and just input cost, I told you a minute ago that basically I made $713 a head. Well, I do a pretty good job of keeping records of my expenses. My expenses for last year was $581. So basically, I made $131 a head per cow. 60 cows. That's let's see, that's about $8,000 that I actually cleared, and so that's not a lot of money. And so the one thing I'm going to have to do along with y'all is we got to try to figure out how to minimize our inputs, and of course maximize your output and maximize your sales. One of the ways to maximize the sale is to join in on these preconditioned calf sales. Of course, NetBio has one. There's some in South Texas, and so they're out there. And one misconception about a lot of these preconditioned sales is you got to sell 20 or 30 or 50. You got to sell a truckload. That's not true. If you carry them to Oklahoma City, yeah, for trucking, you better have a truckload. But if you just carry them to, say, Sulphur Springs, you can carry one if you want to. It's going to be commingled with somebody else. You can carry one, you can carry six. They do charge, of course, commission. They do charge a membership fee, which is, pretty minimal. And so, but even with that, you're still getting some pretty good premiums. And so we've got to look at, what we can do to offset some of this. Just my hay baling and fertilizer last year, I was running, I looked at it between hay baling, fertilizer, and chemicals. I was running about $15,000. And, and with the amount of hay that I made, I had right at $60 a bale in hay. And so at $60 a bale, and, we kind of always figure 4 bale per cow per year. That is if it's, there's some other circumstances to go along with that. If it's very dry and hot and we don't have any grass, we may have to start feeding hay in September and August. Well, you're guaranteed to go up another 1 to 2 bales. If it's a cold, wet winter like we had a couple years ago, those cows just go through the hay, especially if it's not great quality. And so, you're, probably going to go up another bale or so. So, but I try to always, run about four bale per year per cow. And so, I've got an input cost of $240 per cow just in hay. And so that's not including feed. That's not including any of my leases, anything like that. That's not including tractor breakdowns. So, those inputs keep continuing to go up. So, if you can produce hay, produce the best quality hay you can get, because that's going to reduce the amount of feed and supplementation that we're going to have to do in the future. Of course, I don't know if everybody's doing this, but they should. Mineral package, and some loose minerals out there. Minerals are pretty expensive, but they need to be on a mineral package year round. And so, you got those input costs in there also. So, but that mineral package is, it really helps with breeding and rebreeding, and helps with the overall health of the cow. So we need to kind of look at that and put those inputs in there. I think in as far as the future goes, I don't think anybody can predict what the cattle market's going to do truthfully in 2023 or 2024. As producers, we're at the mercy of several things. Number one being the market. Number two being weather. So when you look at those two combined, it makes it very tough to be in the cattle business, any type of farming. So it is very essential that we kind of look at and try to, like I said, minimize our inputs and maximize our outputs. And so, but I don't think that we can accurately, anybody, I mean, we have economists on staff, and I pulled some numbers from them. I told you at the beginning that they're expecting 2023 prices to be a lot higher. That is true, and they probably will, but we don't know, to be honest with you, how high. Weather's going to dictate, if we start getting a lot of rain and cooler temperatures, which they're not forecasting, their numbers may be totally off. And so, a lot of this stuff that they are predictions. And so this is what they are predicting. One thing we can count on, is, they are predicting and still predicting high fertilizer prices. I think as long as the war in Ukraine is still going on, and our fuel prices are still extremely high, fertilizer prices are going to continue to be high until those things, settle back down. Our fertilizer prices are going to continue to be high. Because, a lot of, a lot of those products, the phosphorus, I think in particular, a lot of that comes from Russia, and over in the European countries. And then, as far as our fuel, that fuel is used to make our fertilizer. So as long as those two stay high, we're going to continue to have, fertilizer prices continue to stay high. Chemical prices, I don't know if anybody's bought any chemicals. They haven't doubled, but they have gone up significantly, probably 40%. Roundup, if any of you have bought any Roundup, now that has more than doubled. You're paying about 40 to $60, depends on whether it's generic or the um, the Roundup trade name. Um, Now it's running anywhere from $100 to $125. So Roundup has gone up significantly, and a lot of these chemicals have. And so my suggestion to y'all is to work with your county agent, work with Anthony, get you a good plan as far as um, your weed control is concerned. Um, and I'm not saying, and I'm not saying 100%. Hey, let's spray. Some people, have an aversion to spraying and just want to shred their pastures. That's fine. It's going to cost you a little more to shred them, um, but you're still going to need some weed control. One thing about shredding is a lot of times it's twofold. You got to let your weeds get high unless you start cutting some grass. And so we don't really want to cut any grass this year because I think it's going to be very critical to grow as much as you can. Um, those of you that are running cows on Bahia grass, I actually shred. I go in there at least once a year. Once that Bahia grass gets tall and it gets pretty tough, you'll see the cows eating around it. If you go in there and top that Bahia grass and get some new growth on it, um, they'll start eating it a lot better. So there are some advantages to shredding, and so work with Anthony, work with your county agent to get a plan, get a plan for marketing your cows. Um, whether you're selling them individually, if you are selling them individually. And I'm from Emory, so here in Range County, so we'll use the local sale barn as a reference. Um, there are things you can do. Castrate your calves, put an ear tag in them, dehorn them. If you will do those things, you may not even you probably won't get the premium per se as you will um, at a preconditioned type sale, but you are going to get a premium because those buyers see that it's castrated. How many people want to go castrate a calf at 95 degrees on June 1st? They're not going to, because when that buyer takes that calf and it's still intact, they're taking a risk at losing them. And so when it's hot, um, they're taking a risk of castrating that calf. They're taking a risk of infection and flies and things like that. So if you can manage those calves, and go ahead and blackleg them. Blackleg is basically, and I don't know the true figure off the top of my head, but it's in the past it's been around 25 cents to blackleg a calf. You lose a 600-pound calf, you can blackleg your whole herd for 10 years for just losing one calf. And so, blackleg them, ear tag them, ear notch them if you need to, worm them, castrate them, dehorn them. That will give you a premium wherever you go. And so those management skills will help you as far as marketing your calves. Um, there are other ways to market your calves. You can market them through direct sales. Typically, to do that, you've got to have several. You need a truckload to direct market them. Oklahoma City, they have kind of a precondition and a stocker sale. Those calves bring really good nationally, that's where kind of the benchmark is on prices is what's happening out of Oklahoma City. And so anybody can go sell at Oklahoma City, but they've got to be background and vaccinated, and just like we're talked about. You're going to get a premium, but from Tyler, Texas to Oklahoma City is a pretty good jump. So you're really going to need a truckload of cattle to justify the freight. And that's one thing we haven't talked about is when these buyers, we talk about trying that where these preconditioned sales come into play. A buyer can go in there and buy a truckload of animals that look just alike, and he can ship them on that truck, and then that freight is incurred. But if you go to Emory, if a buyer has to go to Emory, then to Athens, and then to Crockett, and then down to Navasota to pick up a truckload, they are spending more money. So those calves are going to be less because that freight, they know that freight's going to be incurred because they're going to have to go from Emory to Athens to Crockett to Navasota and to pick up loads to make a full truckload. And so those order buyers have all those numbers in their mind. And so it's so there are so many things on the backside of this market that I don't know, you don't know, and a lot of people don't know, that may cost 5 cents a hundred or something like that. And so trying to reduce that, total amount that we're getting knocked, is very critical. So like I said, management is key. Castration, dehorning, worming, putting good bulls on your cattle, get the best type of calf you can get. Bulls 50% of your calf herd. So, you need to have as good a bulls as you can, because that's going to, in turn, kind of give you, a leg up maybe against your neighbor. So that's, I know I've talked a lot and I've thrown out a lot of numbers. I don't really know exactly how much time you want me to talk, Anthony. I'll be glad to kind of answer questions, or, kind of, talk some more. I can talk about anything for any length of time you need.
Sure. Appreciate it. Oh, you got some questions? Go ahead.
All right.
How do you find out where a preconditioned sale is? Talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Good question. You can look at local sale barns, like Hopkins, or not Hopkins County, but Sulphur Springs Livestock is where they have the net bio sale. And so you can go to, you can call them or go to their website at Sulphur Springs Livestock, and they will have a list of when and where their preconditioned sales are. They're always going to be there, but they're going to have a list. And one thing I didn't mention is with preconditioned sales, they've got to be weaned for 60 days. And then they've got to be worked and castrated and dehorned and all that. But that in that 60 days, you're going to, when you first wean that calf, you're going to take a little bit of hit because they're going to lose some weight. But with good feed and some grass, they'll gain that back plus more. And one of the things that sales are looking for is those calves that are not balling and that are already weaned, that can go straight on feed, water, things like that. But you can go to your extension service should have a lot of them have list of different subbarns in the area. Um, I know Nacogdoches has a cell barn, Crockett has a cell barn. Not exactly sure, how far that is from y'all. Winsboro has a cell barn, and I don't know that they have any preconditioned cells at Winsboro. But you can go to their websites or give them a call, and they can tell you when and where their preconditioned cells are. And I know in San Saba they have a big preconditioned cell 6-7 times a year. I think Crockett and Navasota both have preconditioned cells. And I'm not sure about if any of y'all, because you're not far, if y'all sell in Wills Point, whether they have any preconditioned cells or not. So that's where to start, looking at those. A lot of if y'all are members of the Southwest Cattle Raisers, they have a magazine called The Cattleman. There's some preconditioned cell ads in there, and you can take your calves through them. And so those are some ways to look at that. We got
I
another.
want to say the two closest ones around here would be Sulphur Springs and Crockett preconditioned cells.
Right. That's what I figured.
Yeah. Any more questions?
I'm near Crockett, so that works. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and just call the Crockett, cell barn and find out, if they have any and when they have them. A lot of them will have, these preconditioned cells. A lot of them have, replacement cow cells. Getting to know those, owners at the cell barn, that's pretty critical too. And, building a relationship with them. Because they know your cattle. If you're selling good cattle, they will help you. That's like over here in Emory. They're like, I'll call them, say, what's the market doing this week? Is it time to sell or time to hold a week? And they'll kind of let me know. And so getting to know those guys at your local cell barns are, that's pretty critical too. So we have any other questions? I know I talked a lot and threw a lot of numbers and stuff out, but I'll be glad to answer anything.
Something interesting you touched on was we are forage producers instead of cattle producers. I listened at Dr. Olson talk, and she said a $12 soil test can save you thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
So soil testing is very critical because you touched on weeds, and the more forage you have, the more cows you can produce, the more money that you can have in your bank account. So taking care of your soil fertility is a big component of beef cattle ranching.
Absolutely. I mean, soil fertility is critical. Of course, soil health, weed control, weed management. Basically, the old rule of thumb is for every pound of weeds you control, you get a pound of grass. And so you think about that. We got a pasture full of goat weeds. What's that goat weed doing? When that goat weed gets 12 to 18 inches tall up to 2 feet tall, it's shading out our grass. Not only does it shade out our grass, it's taking moisture from there, and it's taking nutrients. So that weed is actually competing against your grass for nutrients and water. And so especially this year, it's going to be super critical to make sure you get that weed control, to get as much poundage of weeds as you can, or not weeds, but grass. And because, like I said, I mean, we're forage managers. utilizing the cows to eat the grass. And that's basically how you have to look at it. Because if you do not have the forage, as my daddy used to say, is you can't feed a profit into a cow. If you sit there and try to feed that cow everything she eats, you're going to lose money. And so we've got to be able to do it and let them graze it themselves. Another thing, I didn't touch on, we talked about inputs. I am a big believer. A lot of people will tell me I'm crazy for this, but hay is the most expensive thing you can put in a cow's mouth. And so reducing the amount of hay that you can actually have to put up and actually feed is critical. There are, and Anthony and Clint can help y'all with this strategy. There are strategies that, basically cows eat standing forage. I'm going to give you an example. I have a Tipton 85 hay meadow. I'm cutting it. Matter of fact, he's coming, it's supposed to rain Thursday. So he's coming Friday to cut it. But last year, what I did is I grazed it throughout the year. In September, I went in and put a little fertilizer on it. And then I pulled the cows off of it. And on, I think, November 15th, somewhere in there, first 2 weeks of November, I turned the cows in on it right before the frost. And I did not put out a bale of hay to that group of cows. I have 20 cows on that particular place. I did not put out a bale of hay until January 6th because I was leaving to go hunting and it was supposed to get cold and I didn't want my wife to have to do it. But so I went, over 2 months, or 3 months, to be honest with you, because my other cows I started feeding in October. So I didn't feed that group of cows a bale of hay till January 6th. I let them eat it off the ground. And so that reduced the amount. And of course, I still had fertilizer cost in it, but I didn't have $25 to $26 a bale rolling it up. I don't know what it is there in Smith County, but hay baling this year is costing here is anywhere between $30 and $35 a bale if you have a custom hay baler come bale it for you. So that is a strategy you can do. Another strategy along with that is, especially if you have enough places to do this and enough ground, you can put out winter pasture or ryegrass, and let them forage on that. Of course, that's expensive. Don't get me wrong, but it still is going to be a little bit less per cow than a bale of hay. I still feed a lot of hay. There's a group of cows I have over at a lease pasture that, I really don't have the opportunity to, the way it's set up, I can't graze them like that. And so I have to put out hay. And so that's a management tool that y'all can use to do that. So to reduce the amount that you're going to actually put in them. So is there any other questions in regards to that or comments or?
All right. Well, Stephen, I appreciate you for filling in for Mr. Joe Dunn, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any more questions, you can use that chat box. I want to thank Mrs. Pellerin for helping me host this program. And I thank Mr. Stephen Gowin, he has already exited, but I want to thank him for filling in for Mr. Joe Dunn today. And I hope y'all learned something today about the beef cattle market and how to start making a little extra income to keep producing. So with that being said, thank y'all for attending today's session, and hope to see y'all next week.